War Scott here. It says President Trump delivers address after Iran strikes. What is going on? Hold up. Something right here. Oh, that's good. All right, let's check this and see what they got to say.
That the United States has bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran. CBS is reporting 6 B-2 stealth fighters dropped 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs on at least one of those sites, the very first time that weapon has been used in combat. Today, it was to destroy an underground nuclear facility about 60 miles southeast of Tehran. The president said that all American planes are safely now out of Iranian airspace. These American strikes are in support of a war that Israel launched on Iran 9 days ago. We know tonight that the Israeli prime minister has spoken to the president, thanked him, and congratulated him on the strikes.
I gotta see the live video of these bunker busters in action. What the hell?
We are awaiting word now from the President of the United States himself, who is expected to address the nation from the White House. As we await him taking the podium, I want to go to our White House correspondent, Weijia Jiang. Weijia, we know that the president returned to the White House in the 5 o'clock hour, around 6 p.m. He had a national security briefing. What do we know about what was going on at that period of time?
Margaret, that's right. He was in his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, but came back.
If you're here in Phoenix, right now we have an offer going on where we can get you a brand new, super efficient air conditioning and heating system, a system that's going to be able to do both.
This evening, which was actually always the plan, even when he took off for that trip. And right beforehand, he said that Iran had at maximum 2 weeks to try to reach a diplomatic deal. There was no indication at that time that he was going to follow through with the strikes.
You know, don't they usually tell us that they're going to war? They didn't say anything and they're dropping these bunker busters down. I gotta see the videos when those come out. It's gonna be amazing.
But of course, that quickly changed.
Weijia, we see the president now.
The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Tell us you're going to war.
The bully of the Middle East must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu.
So is there going to be a regime change too? It's going to be interesting to see.
We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill.
Yeah, if I find these buster bombs videos, we're going to be watching that. That's got to be crazy.
Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
God bless. Amen. That's freaking crazy.
So, I also want to...
President of the United States walking away from the podium there where he had been flanked by the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, along with Secretary of Defense and his Vice President, announcing and congratulating the military on what he called spectacular military success in these strikes that were carried out inside Iran earlier today. He said the sites were, quote, completely obliterated. Now, he did seem in those remarks not to completely close the door on further military action. He thanked the U.S. military and said that he hopes that their services won't be needed again.
You know, what's weird about it, too, is they're just saying that the bunker bombs aren't going to do it and they're going to need to drop nukes. But then they just said they did the bunker bombs. Interesting.
And he said all of this was meant to erase the nuclear threat posed by Iran. To be clear, U.S. intelligence assessment has been that Iran was not yet building a nuclear weapon, but that they had been enriching nuclear fuel at worrisome levels. The international community had high degree of outcry on that point. Just a few weeks ago in Vienna, you had the Israeli strikes come the following day after that, in the midst of what had been a diplomatic effort by President Trump and his envoy, Steve Witkoff, to negotiate with Iran to get them to limit their nuclear program. Those did not result in an agreement, though up until today, I am told, the U.S. was trying to reach out. Yet, just a few hours ago, we saw these strikes carried out. I want to go over to the Pentagon now, where our Charlie D'Agata is. And apparently, Charlie, you'll be there early tomorrow, since the president just said there'll be an 8 a.m. Pentagon press conference where he will detail these strikes. The Secretary of Defense will. What do we know at this hour? I know Iran is acknowledging and saying that these strikes happened, but that it will not end their nuclear program.
Yeah, well, Margaret, we await that briefing tomorrow. We have had very few briefings here at the Pentagon, so it'll be interesting to see how much detail is shared there. But as it was already shared, 6 bunker.
You know, what's weird is they said they struck one, and there's still another one. And then in the title here says U.S. launches strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. So what's the truth? Who knows? I want to see the bombs in action. Where's that footage?
Busters on Fordow. That would have meant at least 3 of the B-2 bombers that we've already discussed, where they came from, when they were deployed. We were talking earlier today about whether they went from Whiteman, whether they were going to Guam. Maybe it was a head pump, maybe it was a head shake of where this was going to go and when it was going to happen. Something like 30 Tomahawk missiles at 2 other sites there. They've been called massive precision strikes. I think what we need to know, and I'm not sure whether that is knowable at this point, is how damaging that was if the White House is to be believed, whether it crippled entirely took out Iran's nuclear capabilities at Fordow, Natanz, and Safran. He's calling it a spectacular success. But the other thing we need to be concerned about now is he mentioned when he took out the assassination of Qasem Soleimani when he was president. And we saw the retaliation then across multiple American targets. There are 40,000 U.S. service members spread throughout the Middle East, and they have come under attack before. And we've already known, even leading up to this, because it was always a what if, but leading up to where we are now, we've been speaking to people here at the Pentagon, DOD, saying if there is an Iranian retaliation, how are we postured? How is the United States postured to defend against that? There are multiple. In fact, I can't remember how many times or the last time we've seen this many military assets flooded into that area in order to defend against a possible Iranian retaliation to protect U.S. forces there.
No doubt that force posture has been really built up in these past few days. At the same time, it was just this morning that we heard the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, announce with detail for the very first time how Americans in Israel could actually safely get out. The U.S. government brought about 70 of them by plane to Greece.
That's nice. You never announced to the American people you're going to war, though. No one told us it. Oh, they said, oh, you got 2 weeks and we'll figure out what we're going to do. No, they already bombed them. They tell us nothing.
Evacuating them from the area. The airspace over Israel has been closed for days, so it has made it hard for people to leave if they wanted to, because there has been this back and forth with Iran's retaliation against Israel, some of those missiles piercing their defenses, those U.S.-provided defenses in many ways. And I know it has been remarkable, Charlie, that whether we're talking to current or former officials, they all seem to say it's amazing we haven't yet seen retaliation. We haven't yet seen a strike against a U.S. base or U.S. assets. Now that the United States has entered this conflict in this way, that may change. And I have no doubt that there is a bracing for what could be coming next.
Well, I guess we'll see if Russia holds their promises. America waits.
Spoke to some diplomats in the region just within the past hour, and I was told there wasn't much of a heads up given to some of our allies there. Just to remind people, Charlie spoke about 40,000 U.S. military personnel in that region of the world. The fourth largest military installation America has in the world is in Kuwait, very close there to Iran. Very significant naval assets in Bahrain. A lot of American families stationed there. So it's not just Israel, it is the surrounding Arab countries that the U.S. is allied with who are holding their breath tonight, wondering if hosting those American forces also makes them a target. So we are going to be watching all those bases that you see there on the screen, as well as some of the other American assets in the region. I also just want to acknowledge here that while the president has been saying this was a successful strike, we don't yet know what the end game is here. We don't know that from the United States, and we don't know that from the nation of Israel either. The goal was stated to be destruction of Iran's nuclear program. Tonight, you have out of Iran statements from their atomic agency saying that this national industry, as they refer to it, will not be stopped. That you can't kill knowledge. There have been, of course, assassinations of nuclear scientists, as we know. We want to go now on the phone. We are joined by General Frank McKenzie, who was the combatant commander there in the Middle East for so many years. General McKenzie.
Yeah, but one of the big questions is there going to be a regime change, or they're just like, boom, bombed a couple of their nuclear sites and we're going to call it quits. Like, what are we doing here? And to my knowledge, China's Russia supporting them, but then now Russia is somehow mad at China. I don't know what's going on. This world's gone bad.
I hope you can hear me now. I know you have literally gamed out this scenario for years when you were in the job. What are those U.S. military families? What are those soldiers and naval men? What are they bracing for tonight? What should we expect with the light of day?
Previously owned by a small faction of about 800 people.
Yay, another commercial.
Now it's entirely yours.
Good to be with you tonight. I've worked on this plan for 15 years. It looks like a successful strike. As you noted, we'll know more in the hours and days ahead how successful it actually was. But what the Central Command commander right now is most concerned about is the possible Iranian response. What's it going to be? What are they going to do? And a lot of the thinking over the last few days, I'm sure, in the Department of Defense has been how to prepare for that inevitable Iranian response. And so we flowed forces in. We'll be ready for it.
I'm not even worried about the Iranians. I'm more worried about what Russia's going to do at this point. Iranians run out of bombs.
What we want to do is avoid a significant loss of American life that would then push us up the escalatory ladder. So we want to save the Iranians from themselves. We want to maintain balance in the region if we can. And that's what the CENTCOM commander is going to be working on right now. I would also note that Iran is gravely weakened as a result of their exchanges with Israel.
Man, look at that beautiful bomber right there. Such a beautiful bomber.
Over the past few weeks, and in fact over the last year or so. So this is a very significant thing to bear in mind as we look at what the Iranians might do in response. The final thing I will say is this. The Iranians have held all the lower cards on the escalation ladder. But the simple fact is this. We hold all the higher cards on the escalation ladder, as does Israel, and the Iranians know that.
Well, General, to that point, I was speaking to an Iran analyst just a day ago who described this regime as homicidal but not suicidal, meaning they would restrain themselves from a head-to-head conflict with the United States. As you just pointed out, they are in such a weakened position because of the conflict over the past year or more. Does that had to have factored in to the calculation tonight? Do you think President Trump is being overconfident if he thinks this is one and done?
I think President Trump actually has unique and powerful credibility on this issue. He noted the strike on Qasem Soleimani, which I really believe was the correct action at the time. I was responsible for carrying out his orders on that strike and really began the arc of the trajectory that has taken us to this point where Iran is on their back foot and in growth.
I kind of feel like Israel just gave him. He just gave Israel what they wanted, basically.
In a very grave danger of even surviving as a state. So I think that's something to understand as we take a look at it. I think we should remember that the primary goal of Iranian statecraft is preservation of the regime. At different times before, this regime has chosen to step back when faced with the possibility of regime destruction. I think they're rapidly approaching that point right now, and I think this measurably moves us forward to that end.
We have learned here at CBS that there was some advance notice